Oh my God, I almost missed it.
You hear that, Art, too?
No,
You hear that?
I'm out of breath. I was running. I heard the beeping.
It is a bull market, my friend. Holy shit.
Why? What's going on? Are we
Markets
back?
are up.
Did
Markets
things
are
happen?
up. Solana is up 20%. Cardano
Well, the great news is
up.
we're back live on the show to squash that run right back down. As is tradition.
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody is expecting this rally to fail. That's not a call. That's not a sentiment call. I'm not saying, oh, everyone thinks it's going to fail, so it's going to work. That's not that. I just mean that everyone has PTSD from a year of failed rallies, just one failed rally after another. And it's like Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown. The moment, the second, the millisecond, you're like, all right, this is finally it, and you get your hopes up, she pulls the football, and right back down we go. And as we have said 4 times on this show in recent months, we are back at the top of the range. We're right at 1350. This is that giant unbreakable wall. I don't know what that is in Bitcoin, like 17.2 or something like that. This just ever since, we'll call it the FTX wall, I guess, that we can't get above, because as young Sam Bankman-Fried defrauded the public of $8 billion and coins found new lows, at least Bitcoin did, and ETH went back under 1,300. We have been in this range, and we have gotten to the top of the range many times, knocked back down many times, often by macro, sometimes just cause, as it's crypto. And here we are again, right back at the top of the range. And boy, I guess the one difference is everything is mooning. I mean, this is a broad-based rally. You would be hard-pressed to find a coin down today. And I know it's weird. I know like every exchange starts counting the day at a different time. Like it's always weird to see like one exchange says it's up 12% and the other says it's down 0.16, and it's just because they're calculating it at a different time. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Like their rolling period is different.
Yeah. But in general, look around. Alts on fucking fire, up, minimum 5%. A lot of them 10 to 20. ETH ramping, Bitcoin ramping, almost leading the S&P, though. The S&P 500 did close on Friday pretty bullish, and it was a turnaround. So when we came into the morning, it looked like we were going back to the depths of hell. Same old saying. This is the thing. Like, it's just people, like, once you touch the electric cupcake too many times, you think you're going to get shocked every time you touch it. And
electric cupcake.
Well, it's my Simpsons analogy when Lisa set up the cupcake with the jumper cables to it.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to take it.
You know what? I got to say, if you want to be bullish on something, Fellboy and Vintage Extras always hopping in here with the Cryptoon Goons PFPs. Like, talk about a project that is more than likely, well, I know that it actually did go on a little bit of a run like some of the other projects did too, but I mean, that project hasn't gone anywhere, and I still see them all the time. It might just be, some of the people that I follow on Twitter and whatnot, but man, great art, and I always love them.
Guess what book I'm reading right now?
I don't know. Give me a hint.
No, just
okay. Then I don't know.
I'm reading Walt Disney: The Triumph of the
I figured
American
that this is where we were going.
Yeah, by Neil Gabler. And I'll tell you, anytime I see a Cryptoons Goons, I just get Steamboat Willie
100%
vibes. And boy, reading about the beginning of the Walt Disney Studios is incredible. The
guy was an absolute sharp.
Oh my God. And if you knew how many failures and L's and bad luck he was handed early on. I think as I'm reading this, I'm even looking at myself. I'm like, I think 99% of us would have given up. And he had this fucking just unrelenting belief that it was gonna work. It's almost like he knew, he knew it was gonna happen. So it did not matter how adverse the road, because he just knew. He knew what he was going to do. And
well, I love that story that after he, successfully got Disneyland in California up and running, he wanted to do another one in Florida. But of course, anybody knowing that Disney was going to be buying up land would just jack the price up on them. So he had like 5 different shell corporations or something start to accumulate all the acreage in that area. And at the time, I don't remember. Let's just pull a number out of our ass and say it was $100 an acre. So he was buying up all of these plots of land so that he could move in there. And then eventually word got out that all of this land was being sold to Disney. And immediately the remaining land skyrocketed to $2,000 an acre and whatnot. But just the absolute ability to move markets, even really early on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many stories like that. He came from absolute, what we consider today basically poverty, and he just had this relenting belief in what he wanted to do, and he was very smart. And there are a lot of stories like the one R2.
There's actually I think it's either an hour or 2 long podcast, or maybe a 2-part, but it's this podcast is called How to Take Over the World.
Yeah.
And he does little mini series on prominent figures that have rose to the upper echelons of power and wealth and whatnot. And of course, Disney is one of them. And he does a great job of just going through his life and those failures. And the podcast goal is to try and dive into the psychology of these ultra successful people and find commonalities between what made them tick, what got them to that point. And it's not all about good people either, too, right? He did Hitler. Normally it is people that are who have passed away, but he recently did one on Vladimir Putin too. And it's really just fascinating to there's this crazy personality type that it takes to get to that level.
There is Neil Gabler's book, an absolute gem. So if that interests anyone at all, reading about one of the great American industrialists, that's Walt Disney, the triumph of the American imagination. Vintage Extras, I hear you. Dope art for dope people, amazing community. It's evident. I think here's the problem. I see a lot of communities try, right? You try. When you try, it just never works. Community is effortless. People just bond over what it is. There's no need for anything else. People are always looking for the secret sauce. It's something you could do.
You can stoke the fire. You can help.
Right.
But that also just goes along with being a good community member yourself. It's not you can't force it. You're right. You gotta just stick with it.
This is not to say you should do nothing. It is to say that no matter what you do, you can't manufacture the special sauce. The special sauce is there or it's not. You can certainly elevate it once it's there. Yeah. And that's what founders need to do. But Cryptoon Goons definitely has it. So yeah, big shout out.
Shout out to AlphaMint alumni Jesse is it Friedland, right?
Yes, sir. The dev.
Lead dev of Cryptoon Goons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good morning.
I remember when he kind of got that gig. We were super excited, and then the mint was going down, and then the mint was it was a little bit bearish. It almost looked like it wasn't going to get across the finish line. I minted a couple, and then we were live on the show, and then it just went bonkers.
And then for that day, and then eventually had the Gary effect that got it almost to 1 ETH, maybe at or above. I think it was almost at 1 ETH at that point.
It got up to 1 ETH.
Quite the moment. And like I said, the special sauce is just there. There's no, it's dope art.
It's a vibe, as the young folks say, for sure.
Yeah.
Chipper, Wiper, GM. Guys, this is AlphaMint AM show number 180. And hey, look, we had a bullish show on Friday. NFTs were back. Crypto is still doing its sideways thing. It's kind of flipped on its head this show over the weekend. Not even over the weekend, over like what, the last 12 hours, maybe 18 hours. Crypto
literally,
decided
it's funny
to do
because
something.
the real move started at 6 p.m. last night, which, as my traders out there should know, is the open of Globex, the global exchange of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where the S&P futures and oil futures and all that shit trades. That opens at 6 p.m. every Sunday. So that tends to be when we get our, is this going to be a risk off or a risk on moment? And crypto, which, again, had you been watching alts, you kind of expected this to, like, I think a lot of people thought there'd be a giga pump this weekend, and it was like relatively muted, though ETH did get up to 1280. It was feeling like kind of bullish. And then once stocks opened at 6 p.m., and stocks were not ever up that much. Like, you can't say it was because the market opened, but the timing was basically exact. And, you know, that's also the time that Japan and Asia start to wake up. So this felt kind of like the Asian bid, as we like to say. We say, was it the Asian bid or the European bid or the American bid? You always try to figure out where the flows are coming from. And, you know, spot is right up to the top of the range. That range we've been hammering on for months now. But alts have broken out. Alts are now moving out of that range, which is why people suspect maybe this fourth knock on the door here at the top of the range we're actually going to break through. I mean, you look at, like I said, Solana up 20%, Cardano up 11%, most alts kind of doing that. And then the big story for the early traders over the weekend was the AI meta, with Gala up 50%, and any coin that has AI in its documentation, artificial intelligence, the buzzword this weekend. And man, things just look good out there.
Let's talk about some of this for context. Right now, ETH is knocking at that 1350 door.
Oh, did it get up?
That we've talked about. What's that?
We're at 1325 on ETH right now. Live.
Yep. So, you know, when we've been talking about that range that we've been trading in for so long and things going sideways, we're definitely taking a couple steps up back towards that. And we've tested that. This will be the third try at 1350 since the whole FTX debacle, which was pretty crazy that was a whole 60 days ago now. Pretty wild to think that, you know, we've been moving along that quickly. But yeah, we're going to take another stab at 1350. It looks like today at some point, and breaking through that could be pretty bullish. I still don't think I'm bullish for us to get back to, like, you know, 1800, 2000 anytime soon. I think we still got a little bit more work to do than that, but I don't know. What do you think? If we break through 1350, we could be looking at maybe taking a stab at 1500 if things get pretty juicy.
Yeah, so I will happily stick my neck out. I do think we're going to break the top of the range this time. It may not be on the first try. Like, if we tag it today, we may pull back tomorrow. Everyone should know we have Jerome Powell speaking at 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. And
why so early?
Yeah, it's weirdly early because it's before the market opened, and maybe I got that time.
5 a.m. on the West Coast, like,
right? That's what the calendar had said to me. I'll have to double check that. Either way, people are going to front run that. And if we were going up into it, you know, this is a catalyst. Whatever you were doing into the catalyst, at least expect the opposite reaction in the very short term. So you could see whatever he says, you know, being all hawkish and everyone should be bearish. You know, like, for the last 2 months, Powell has said nothing new. Like, he's never really said one new thing, yet we've either rallied insanely hard or crashed insanely hard off of his speech. So what that tells me is when he's saying the same thing, but we're using it as our, you know, point of demarcation where we tend to either rally big or crash big off of it, the setup into it is much more important. And I just think that when we look at sentiment, when we look at internals, and even when we look at the technical setup, the next leg has been pointing to up. And whatever happens with Jerome Powell tomorrow, even if we get an immediate down reaction, I do think we could reverse. So remember, top of the range, 1350. We may not get through the first time, but I do think we will break through this week. I've been pretty quiet in the sense because I as you come to the end of the year, you try to start to figure out what your roadmap is for the next year. Seasonality should always guide. That should be anytime you're going to be like, all right, what do I think markets are going to do this year? First, you lay down your seasonality, okay? And you see what markets usually do. And then you start looking at your economic calendar and you figure out, well, this event's going to happen now and this person's going to talk that, and you try to figure out your roadmap. Well, coming into this year, 100%, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe it's 99% of banks on Wall Street believe the first half of the year is going to be hairy, that we're going to find a bear market low at some point. Now, remember, what that implies is that we didn't make it last year. That means we'd be going lower than our lows last year. In other words, they're predicting a lot more pain in the first half, and it's for the usual reasons that you've been hearing, right? Interest rates are up so much. That has to affect labor. There's going to do something at some point, all that, right? The same reasons you've been hearing for a while. Well, I think that the exact opposite is going to happen. And I think that if we look.
Wait, isn't the exact opposite all-time highs?
No, okay. So they,
sorry, okay, I'm just messing.
They believe we're going to crash in the first half of the year and rally back in the second half. Flip that around. I think if we look unbiased at the last 2 months of data, it has been pointing to what we call in economics a soft landing. Now, the market, because of that, has rallied a bit, but also has kind of stabilized and not gone back to the lows. Remember, we were down 3,500. We couldn't break 3,700 to the downside. Why is that? Because the data has pointed to a soft landing, but it makes no sense. Look at history. 100% of the time, after the Fed did what they just did, labor market starts to collapse. We go into a recession. Earnings have to be adjusted lower, and the market 100% of the time. It makes no sense for us to continue up. So markets have had a cap on them. We haven't been able to get above 4,000 and stay there in any sustained manner because people know what's coming, right? Well, right now, it's a soft landing until it isn't. And the problem, at least the large problem in the last year, has been this idea of economic lag, like people seeing things, but the amount of time for them to show up in the actual data has taken longer than people expected. And if this labor market weakness, consumer sentiment weakness, spending weakness, if all of that doesn't start to show up, well, it's a fucking soft landing. And people are going to have to adjust for that possibility. It's not that it's going to be a soft landing. It's that if the economic hardship you expect does not show up on time, well, it is one until it isn't. And people have to readjust whatever their risk profile is for that possibility. Doesn't mean they go all in. Doesn't mean that we're going to make new all-time highs. It means it's going to look like it until it doesn't. So I actually think consensus is absolutely wrong here. We're going to rally in the first half of the year, and we're going to go back down in the second half of the year. And this is kind of what I think is setting up right now. It's what we're looking at. And man, look at that look at that chart there. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was just bringing this up. Gala, Zilliqa having an absolute time right now.
Wow. Up into the right.
Also wanted to note in there, ApeCoin having an incredible day and weekend, or week too now, up 25% on the week.
Wow.
And you know what? It's ApeCoin is going to be one of those interesting things to watch because it should be the recipient of an altcoin pump, but it also should be the recipient of an NFT type pump too. You know what I mean? So right now we seem to be in this market where both are going up simultaneously. And you know, maybe ApeCoin is one of those ones that gets some really, really big moves. to the upside and the downside, of course. Maybe playing that like hyper volatile kind of
Well,
a double edged sword, really.
what's happening with all the ApeCoin that they get staking? Can they claim that? Like, can they claim it and use it? Or
It's dripped out, I believe. Yeah.
okay, because I mean
Like
that
each
feels
ape
like
has a certain amount. If I recall correctly, I'm not in this ecosystem, so I've spent a little bit of time looking at it. Obviously, it's important, but like the staking wasn't the most interesting thing about ApeCoin to me, anyways. But as far as I know, like each mutant and each ape have X amount of kind of tokens locked within them, and then they can be redeemed. I think over time with staking, so there's kind of a yield to come out of them, as well as the obvious airdrop that they got. But I am very, very bullish on ApeCoin as like a metaverse token kind of play. I know a lot of people are kind of poo-pooing on the metaverse, and that's become a downtrend type thing, especially with Meta, Facebook just going in the absolute shit. Although I think it bounced back a little bit recently.
No, a lot of back.
Facebook
back almost up to 120, and it was down at like 80. But I forget what the exact low was, but it has rallied back hard. It's funny. If you look at the market, a lot of the stocks that were making lows when we were at the S&P lows back in October were actually making high. Were actually going higher while the market was down. It was the Apples and the Teslas that were dragging down the market the last few. I kept saying to people, I was like, it is remarkable that the most important bellwethers in our market have been absolutely destroyed. I mean, killed. And we haven't even gotten near the October lows on the S&P. I was like, like that's kind of crazy. That's just I didn't necessarily have any extrapolation from it. I was just like, wow. It just shows how much other things were going up to counter that. Right? Like
right. Yeah. I think a lot of the froth was coming out of those companies that got those crazy valuations. Because I remember it wasn't too long ago that it was like, ooh, is it going to be Apple that's going to be the first company to cross the $1 trillion market cap? And then it was like it felt like you blinked. Obviously, it was probably a couple of years, but blinked, and all of a sudden, Apple's like a $3 trillion company. I'm like, when did that happen?
You know what I mean? And then you have a bunch of $1 trillion. And this is why I tell people like, market cap is a good relative tool to understand what something can do in the very short term, but you also have to understand that human beings progress, and what was $1 trillion today is 10 trillion in 10 years, right? Like
it's like I know I would love to have $1 billion, but like even $1 billion isn't what it used to be,
And
like
it's not even just inflation. There's actual productivity growth in developed countries, especially the United States of America, to the point where I think you're going to have multiple $10 trillion companies by the end of this decade. I think the obvious ones, that are contenders like Apple and Tesla, maybe one or two of them will be it. And maybe there will be some upstarts that, whether it's a biotechnology company that cures like literally all disease. Like, I don't think people we're both, it's hard to say whether it's 20 years or 4 years. Like, that is how close we're so close. The breakthrough can come any moment, but you just never. It could, because of how many like variations and shit you have to run through. It could take 20, but we're so close to like beating all disease that you understand wrecks your life.
Kind of wrap this all up in a nice pretty bow. This is something that AI actually does really help with too, right? Like the amount of computing power to put towards AI. Like AI starts to look at things. Humans have a lot of biases when they're trying to look for patterns and trends and whatnot, but AI wraps up information just so incredibly efficiently and well, and finds things very hard for humans to do, and that will start to push the biotech areas forward too. I don't doubt.
The Roaring 20s. Okay, we're in the 20s right now, and people talk about analogs in history and in markets. And the Roaring 20s was built on cars and radio. All right. If we have our own Roaring 20s and the market goes 5x, I'm talking like your general stock market over the next, say, 7 years, right? As as our own version of the Roaring Twenties plays out. Maybe for us, it's AI and biotech. That's our thing where people go, holy shit! This like it feels like it's
AI is very disruptive to the things
Yes.
that were very disruptive not too long ago.
Exactly. So I think people have gotten very bearish and said that the everything bubble is over. I actually think that the biggest part is yet to come, and it's going to start in 2025. But yeah, echo bubble this year. The echo bubble, first half of the year. I think that means coins could actually get back to half of what they were at the peak last year. What is that? 35K on Bitcoin, 2,500 on ETH. That would be before June of this year. I definitely think the echo bubble is a possibility. Shout out to GCR Classic. Go check him out on Twitter. I mean, he's the one touting this theory for many reasons, but given the economic lag theory and the soft landing possibilities right now, I think he's dead on in what he's saying. And I think the story, and I actually pointed out to R2 what I think will end up being a similar analogy. I think the story of this echo bubble will be AI, and it'll be a lot like the first leg of 3D printing, where 5 years ago, 3D printing was being touted as like, oh, it's going to change everything. We're going to build houses with printers. You're going to do print shit in your house. Like, it's going to change the entire world and how we live. And
yeah, we were talking about it earlier too, and we don't have to get into the nuance of the discussion because neither of us are whatever. I was thinking that AI is going to potentially be like a little bit of a meta in NFTs pretty soon too, right? As people start to find interesting ways to do that, even if it's just from an art-based type thing. But I could see AI art as a full collection start to be like just a little bit of a niche meta coming through. But there are some like legality questions around monetization of that. So I mean, if you're thinking about doing a project like that, do it at your own risk, because it's essentially like the AI to learn just crawls and scours the internet and takes as much information and images and all of this stuff combined, and then the output is obviously based on all of the inputs that it's gathered. So even if it uses 1 million, 2 million, 10 million different sources to kind of put together that one image that you generated, many of those sources might actually be copyright and therefore subject to copyright laws. But I mean, there's a ton of gray area, and there's probably going to be some new legal regulations surrounding that too, much like we're waiting for stuff like that in crypto all the time. AI is definitely going to be subject to that, but I would be looking for some kind of NFT AI type thing going on. The first few that pop up in there, I think I'm going to be ready to try and jump on as quick as possible.
Well, you never want to tell anybody to buy something up 50. Well, you never want to tell anyone to buy anything. NFA. I'll just say that.
Yeah, kind of.
You never want to tell anyone to buy anything.
Yo Street saying nice call on the OnlyForce one. I'm like, I don't want to call it a call, man. I'm just talking.
No, look, that was literally a prescient call.
Keep going on your thought. We'll talk about OnlyForce.
But we'll get to that. But if we just look at this AI, Gala up 50% right now. Ocean up 25% over the last 2 days. I really think these coins are in the top of the first inning. Top of the first inning as far as this goes. Yes, they're up 50% today, and if you buy it, you could be down 25% tomorrow. And you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, definitely do not buy it on leverage right now, okay? But if you want to know what I think is going to be the hot meta during this echo bubble over the next 6 months, I definitely think it's AI. So go research what the AI coins are. You guys know I have been talking about Ocean on this show, pounding the goddamn table. I genuinely did not even understand it was part of the AI meta till tomorrow. I was like, holy shit, my smooth brain didn't even realize this is pumping because of AI. But you guys understand, I'm a chart.
Task failed successfully.
Because I'm a chartist, right? And I always tell people you can see things in the charts before they show up in the headlines. And there's a reason I've been pounding the table on Ocean the last almost 2 months now. And it's because there's been obvious accumulation in the volume pattern, right? In a very simple, and you want to get deeper into internals than this, but from a very simple viewpoint, you want the green candles to have larger volume than the red candles. I mean, that seems obvious, right? But if it looks like people are buying more than the people, or the people who are buying are being a lot more aggressive than the people who are selling, that tends to indicate large accumulation by institutional players. And that's been very obvious in Ocean for a while. It's also been forming this giant cup and handle pattern. And the most common, I think, bottoming patterns are double bottoms and inverse heads and shoulders, but cups and handles, I would argue in this day and age, the cup and handle is the best bottoming pattern that's out there. And there's just a few beautiful cup and handles out there right now, with, to me, the most beautiful one being Ocean. So I really want everyone to go out and not buy the coins we just talked about up 50% the next day on 10x leverage, but I want you to go research this AI meta, because we talk about, like, when a buzzword becomes hot in the stock market, like in 2021, it was NFTs. Like, any company, if they said we're getting into NFTs, their stock would be up 10 to 30% the next day. So just like in the stock market, where these buzzwords become something that smart companies who know how to pump look, every company's trying to pump their stock. Every company's trying to pump their coin, right? And the smart ones that know how to do it right leverage buzzwords and incorporate it into their product, because any marketing department can fit the terms in there in some sly way. And this is the same way in the stock. I even think the stock market could do the same thing. If we see
what is the stock ticker NFT?
It is not an NFT company. I know it exactly.
Well, I assumed that.
I want to say it's it's like a chemical company. I totally forget what it is, like a resources company.
NFT Technologies? I don't know.
So
sorry, complete sidebar. Just like,
yeah,
they probably did well for a minute there.
All of this and lead it into what the theme of our show, I think, should be, and it's that NFTs are back, and they're back.
Not going anywhere.
There are rolling pumps across collections that had moments. There are very successful mints occurring. There are, I mean, whether it's mutant hound collars, whether it's the land mint we're going to talk about.
Well, let's talk about this too, because it fits into our marketing narrative that we were just talking about. We didn't talk about it during our break, but Utes and D-Gods kind of caused a bit of a shitstorm over the latter part of December, saying that they were toying with the idea of bridging over to ETH, and then actually pulling the trigger on it. So if I recall correctly, Utes are going to be moving over to Polygon, and D-Gods are going to be moving over to the ETH chain. We briefly touched on it when like Frank was kind of just going on his rant about it, and then we kind of just said, yeah, he'll do anything for a good marketing buzz. Seems like they're actually going to be doing it, and apparently Polygon has deployed some of their developer fund to get Utes to come over to Matic. And apparently they paid $3 million to the D-Gods brand, but Utes got $3 million to do it. So nice little pull for Matic again, I think.
I think the one stigma, or at least one of the major stigmas that still remains with Polygon, is like just doing straight NFTs on it, right? Like you have not seen a major profile picture project, with the exception of Reddit, launch natively on Polygon and become a top collection or become a trending collection. That's just, it's still a stigma, I believe, from the fact that most Ethereum scams related to NFTs are still run on Polygon. So I could very much understand how Polygon would attempt to court one of the more successful alt chain
Yeah.
NFT projects over to them, so they can start to gain legitimacy in an area where I still believe they carry stigma. I mean, you guys know how my journey over the last couple of years, flipping from very bearish to very bullish on Polygon because of the Web2 deals that they're making. And now look at this, because of the great Web3 deals that they're making. I mean, I'm not a DeGods holder, fan, community member, or care about Frank DeGods or his Utes or anything like that. But I recognize their importance, and I recognize this also as a great move from Polygon.
Yeah, I mean, huge in popularity. There's no doubt that it's or I guess was the darling of the Solana chain. This is very bearish for Solana. I know it's going through a 20% pump right now, but everything kind of is. But I mean, for them to take $3 million to be the top of the food chain on Polygon rather than the top of the food chain on Solana, I think probably should say a lot about Solana, if I'm being completely honest with you. That's immediately where my mind went.
I agree.
Polygon, obviously, like as you said, crushing it in terms of the partnerships, Facebook, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Disney in there too, and they just continue to roll along. But I mean, they were the apex of the Solana chain. They were what everybody talked about, and if you want to use the comparison, they were the Bored Apes of Solana, and now Solana is losing that. I don't think that's a good sign for Sol.
I can't even think of another popular project on Solana.
Not anymore. No, that would have been the only one, right?
Like, really
and maybe that's the problem, right? Like, what's the point of being the biggest fish in a pond that's literally just evaporating?
I mean, I think this is probably most bearish for Magic Eden, because Solana is trying. It's always tried to be more than NFTs. It had its moment in NFTs, but there's a lot of financial protocols built on Solana. From people I know and trust that, again, they're not scammers. They legitimately believe it to be a good low-cost chain for what they're doing. So Solana is not just, I think this is wildly bearish for Solana NFTs and for the Magic Eden ecosystem. That's
got to be a substantial amount of volume that's just being pulled out for Magic Eden, at least, right? Like maybe not the total Solana blockchain in general, but
well, I mean, contrast this with the rise of Magic and Treasure, which is dominating the news cycle in crypto right now. We know they have the big unlock coming, but I think a lot of people now believe Arbitrum will be the gaming platform or the gaming protocol of choice. I know the largest gaming project on Solana, Stargate, is still a massive entity, and I would, again, they haven't done anything yet, but if I had to speculate, that's probably the most important asset left on the Solana chain regarding gaming and NFTs. But yeah, like I said, contrast it with what's going on over at Magic, Treasure, and Arbitrum, and boy, I mean, that GMX, you want to talk? There's another one I pounded the table on earlier this year on the show, and it's an exchange over on Arbitrum to trade DeFi over there. And boy, they're doing $300 million in volume per something.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to ETH NFTs. Anyways,
yes, please. What are we?
There's only so much we could talk about DeGods.
All L1 cycle is dead, people.
I think the big thing over the weekend was the meme land, the captain's drop. So that happened on Saturday. They were all airdropped to the people that were eligible and put their deposits down. There were a lot of people that put deposits down that weren't able to get their hands on one. I think it caused some FUD. I think that there was
I
a
wish.
general sentiment that this was going to be way more of a cook than it was, but it really just depends on how you participated in it. Because for people that won an allow list, like such as yourself, it was a cook. Absolutely, it was. If you were buying potatoes at the top, like 3 ETH, and you bought three of them to get in for 9 ETH, you sold the captain. You're actually still in the you're still in the green right now, with the recent potatoes pump. But when potatoes dropped to, I think they were about 1.2 ETH shortly thereafter. Yeah, you could have been down. So I think we talked about what the prices were going to be. I hit the under. I think, what did you say, 8 or 9 ETH this morning?
I expected it to open at 7, fall to 4.2, and it would be 8 by Monday. So we have still 14 hours left in Monday, and there will be
Monday on the show. No.
no, there will be a late day pump today for captains up to 80th to make me right, because I predicted the opening price, I predicted what they would bottom at, and I will tell you they will get to 80th today. If it's tomorrow, don't twist my arm. What am I going to tell? I'm sorry. One day.
No, you're either right or wrong, man. This is a binary
No,
situation.
that's
I don't know
okay. I'm
what
okay.
we're debating here. But yeah, I mean, the market being its relatively efficient self, pulled the value out of potatoes, put them into captains, kind of traded around there. We're finding some equilibrium, and I think like the total package, potatoes and captains, you might be up 2 ETH if that's how you got into it. But again, the real winners being the ones that got allow list
Well,
spots, minting for one.
only 1 ETH because there's 9% royalties.
And this is a lot of the FUD going on right now. I mean, you mint 10,000 captains for what, 1.069 ETH each. Quick math would dictate that they made over 10,000 ETH on this transaction. $10 million, 16, 17, probably 17, $18 million. And they've applied a 9% creator earning on that. That to me is, I mean, I get it. They're going for the 9 thing, 9 gag, 999, 9 of these, blah, blah, blah. Like, but let's not. I don't think you need a 9% royalty
They
on that.
could have
Just go
done
with the standard.
0.9%.
They could have done point. Well, I mean, hey, you know, maybe. I think that there is something to be said with when you do a high priced mint like that, that maybe it should be at the expense of the trading royalties. That's very aggressive. I mean, I remember when Clonex minted and they had that 10% on the vials. I mean, people were outraged by that. Like, just the most asinine thing. Now, Clonex was 20,000 and a 3 ETH Dutch auction mint price. So maybe, and ETH was like what, $4,000 at the time. So we're talking about a completely different echelon of earnings and whatnot. But 9gag's not a small company either. I don't get this. I don't get the 9%. I think that's a huge misstep on their part.
And boy, was there FUD, but only within the Discord. Like, here's the thing. Old FMC's theory that the best thing any project could have is FUD. Because what is FUD? FUD is marketing. And what type of marketing travels the fastest? Fear. Okay? Uncertainty. Doubt. That's what people like. That's what people consume. That's what they want to hear. So
if you're following along, is what FUD stands for.
Yes. If you want your project to be successful, it needs marketing. And the best type of marketing is FUD. So all the time this is going on in the Discord, I'm like, could you guys go say this on fucking Twitter? What is the point of saying it in the Discord? Blah, 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 blah. Well, they obviously, by making a 9% royalty, encouraged an OTC market, and they, I assume, being smart business people, understood this was going to happen given the existence of pseudo swap and NFT trader and all the other ones you could use or whatever. But that encouraged an OTC market. And because, remember, the reasoning for 9% and the vibe throughout this entire Discord is, we're not traders. We don't like traders. We're
Blah,
only
blah,
here for
blah.
whole. I mean, guy, my eyes roll so
That
far
is
back
literally just
when I
the
hear that
the
shit.
most nauseating
Ugh.
narrative for like
Oh God.
especially a team to like put forward. Like I get it, like as a team, and you want people
Ugh.
to be holders, you want them to engage and whatnot, but to act like it's like non-existent in a highly speculative market, it is
It's so ridiculous. And they're using it as an excuse for any move they make. It's like, oh, because we want to encourage holders and not, and blah, blah, blah. We don't want flippers. We don't want blah, 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 blah. All this stuff is like, okay. All right. So
traders
that's,
are also liquidity providers, right?
I mean,
Like
that, there were a lot of people in the Discord saying that, but let's look at what they did. They encouraged, because of this, an OTC market, because people would like to avoid, obviously, this 11% haircut upon purchasing. But the thing is, they don't have trading channels in their Discord. And why don't they have trade? Because this isn't a flippers project. This was the whole thing. They were saying the whole time, that's not the vibe we want in here. But if you had gone into any of either their public chat or holders chat, every other message was WTS, WT buy, captains at 4, captains at blah, 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 blah. It was spam. And of course there were scams mixed in with the legitimate offers, because that's just, how NFTs and the internet works. But they not only do this thing that encourages an OTC market, but they don't give you a channel. So all of a sudden on the weekend, when everyone's supposed to be happy and celebrating and talking about the project, it's all like the spammers and then people saying this spam sucks. That was the whole conversation, sprinkled in with angry people about the royalty. The entire weekend, that was the whole Discord. They finally relented and created a trading channel, and that actually improved it a lot. Had they just had that from the beginning, I don't think a lot of this would have occurred. Because again, you want to avoid the 9%, just go OTC. All right, there are sites you can do. You can just do a private sale on X2, Y2, or on OpenSea, right? You don't even have to use pseudo swap or whatever. So
yeah, again, I think it's a little bit egregious to even put that 9% in there. Like, that was the conversation, like behind the scenes? Like, I know different conversations go on behind the scenes, and then you try and figure out all the angles and whatnot. But they were really like, yeah, 9%, like fuck the traders, like that's the mentality in their boardroom or whatever.
I hope these guys are brilliant, realized it would create marketing, and then they're just going to lower it. I mean, that, I would just do that.
I guess so. Yeah, it could be a thing. OpenSea rugging me. Is this like a thing now where, 10:30 Eastern, when we start talking about NFTs, OpenSea just goes down. So that's great. Can't even look at the potatoes right now. But I think they're sitting at about 2.2 ETH floor. So that has rebounded. But I think they were as high as 3.4, 3.5, somewhere in there before.
They got up to 3.3 right before the captain's mint. So if you subtract that now, that's 1.1. So multiply that by 3. Remember, none of the first come, first serve, none of the wait list. Okay. Almost, I think 860 people from it got. Most did not. So effectively, if you needed to guarantee yourself a captain, you needed those 3 potatoes. That means that the value right now for captains would be 3.3 ETH plus the 1.069, so 4 point whatever, and then you add in, it's now 5.6, so you're up 1.2, but then you have to subtract the 10%, and you're really up point, whatever. Point.
Yeah. I mean, that's a large amount of liquidity for that kind of gain there. But hey.
Yeah, it's an insane NFT.
They seem to be playing the game right. I mean, they seem to be having this plan for the next step, well thought out before each of it goes down. So I don't doubt that there's more to come in terms of their game and their staking and what that will all mean.
Here's the thing. If the captains are staked at the same percentage that the potatoes are staked, I think these are going above 10 ETH. Look at Creeps. Look at Creeps right now. I gotta say, that's that one collection. Go look at fucking Creeps.
I wish I could.
3 ETH or something right now. 3 or 4 ETH for those fucking Genesis creeps. There's 10,000 of them. I was shocked when I was like, wow, it's a 10,000 collection.
It's an 11,000 collection.
Fucking
well, they're at 2.2, right?
And what percentage is for sale? 2%?
3.
3? Yeah.
They
And
also
that's
take a
what I think-
7.5% cut. Wow.
Right. And that's what I think you're going to see with captains. The moment staking starts, right now it's at 5% listed. You're going to see that fall by half as people start to stake. And I think these are going to get above 10 ETH. I think, though, you know, you have a lot of consideration. If you were just a lucky meme lister that got one captain,
Huge win.
They haven't, it's a huge win, but they haven't told you how you're going to be able to participate in the ecosystem. It seems like you need potatoes. At least they haven't been specific, but it seems like if you don't have the potatoes, which act as multipliers on the yield, like whatever lore and animation they attach to these pirate voyages, in the end, it's a yield farm, right? And the potatoes are multipliers on your yield, just like, you know, I don't know, the dog is a multiplier on your mutant yield for ape or whatever it is. So 3 potatoes are the most you can have in a crew. And if you only have one captain and these go above 10 ETH, I don't know if the yield is worth it to you to say, because, you know, yeah, great. Maybe you'll make a few hundred. I don't even know. It's hard to speculate right now. I think if you only own a captain and you own no potatoes, you are still undecided about how you're going to play this ecosystem because we don't have any details yet. The big thing now is we're waiting for announcements, right? How are you going to get meme? When do we get to stake? And of course, these pirate captains have rarities, which you don't find out until stage 3 or stage 4 of staking. So if you have a 1 of 1, you're not going to know until I think a month or a month and a half after staking. I think it's 6 weeks or something. And that could potentially be worth, 100 ETH or 200 ETH if these are still popular. So we'll see.
I wonder if this becomes like a bit of an art gobblers type situation where you do get that really, really frothy pump once the details are kind of locked in and everybody tries to position themselves in it, right? Like if you need a captain and you need the 3 potatoes and that's the best way to do it. And, you know, everything gets really, really ramped up. The price goes up really quickly. I mean, it typically in these yield farms, P2E, whatever you want to call this, it typically gets smashed back down as all of those people start to take the crazy amounts of profits. And then they say, okay, I'm done with this. Like that does happen. We've seen that time and time again. So I'm kind of getting those vibes the more that you explain it. Obviously not your fault, but that's what I'm thinking here.
The one thing I really want to applaud them on is going absolute full Ponzi. Like every old trick, like whether it's high royalties or whether it's having to link the old collections to the new collections and you have to own this many and there's multiple and then there's legit staking. And if you unstake, you lose all the ticket. Like it's, just I commend how Ponzi is. Like the levels of obfuscation are just so beautiful here. I applaud the 9gag team. And, you know,
well, just remember when you start talking about I'm making $100,000 a day on the yield, it's time to sell. Like, sorry, it just is.
Agreed. Except look at Yuga. How much is Dingaling? And I know Bored Apes are different and they're Yuga, but how much is Dingaling making a day on Ape?
Okay, I don't need to be attacked like that. No. You're right. No, okay. you are correct. You are correct.
Right. So,
but I don't think that yield only came like much later into the project's maturity once like Yuga became Yuga and Bored Apes became Bored Apes, and maybe 9gag is 9gag.
9gag's already 9gag. They don't need to become anything.
Yeah, but you didn't even know who 9gag was before Meme Land, so
I didn't. But I don't know a lot of things. I don't know gaming either. But you tell me Ninja is starting a project, and I'm sure all the kids bid it up to 7 ETH or whatever.
All right, yeah,
I don't know. You know, hey, it could just be holder's bias for me. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I want this to work out, and I want it to be like
See,
a
you're
big.
making the mistake. You were holding Valhalla and we were fighting it at the same time. Now you're talking really bullishly. You're doing it wrong, man.
The thing, I, I was genuinely in
You
disagreement.
you had that my God, he's right moment there. I heard
Right.
it.
Well, I'm genuinely in disagreement with how Valhalla ran the early part of their mint, and I'm genuinely in agreement so far with what Memeland has been doing. They seem to have nailed the secret sauce. We will see if it will. Look, Captains was the big release. All the floor prices were all jacked and anticipated.
Yeah,
Was this it?
I actually disagree with how Meme Land went about it. Honestly. I'm not trying to be a contrarian about it. I just didn't like the idea that it was like 3 potatoes equals one guaranteed mint. Like it's
Yeah.
just you are now giving too many people with high amounts of liquidity the opportunity to buy as much as they want. And it does jack the price up, don't get me wrong, but like that is not I don't think that that's a good starting layer for the the project. I just don't.
Fair. I do think that's fair. I think it's a very good point that anyone who had mad money who really wanted to.
Sure, yeah. If you had 40, if you were sitting on a bag of 500 ETH, you have tons of liquidity, and you wanted to go buy, 40 potatoes or whatever like a good multiple is. Let's say 60. Now you can mint 20 captains, right? Like you're at such an advantage to be able to do so. That I think that this just becomes a whales game, Like
Right.
I think that it is creating the opportunity for these rich, really savvy, really liquid people to extract a lot of ETH from people that are trying to play catch up. And I think that we look back on a lot of this and we see a lot of people just feeling a little bit burned about it.
Well,
That's my take. That's my
if
take.
we
I'm
look
not saying it. I'm more than happy to be wrong.
if we look at who made Azuki, all right, those type like Dingaling. Dingaling didn't sit there and acquire potatoes so that he could verify his wallet and mint captains.
Well,
He
you
will
don't know
hide.
that he didn't. You just know that he didn't do it on his main wallet.
I mean, yes. Okay. I guess he theoretically could have. I am of the belief that those type of whales wait for something to get above 10 ETH before they buy. They don't care. First of all, they're not trying to turn 1 into 10. That doesn't do anything for them because they just can't physically, do enough volume for that to mean anything.
I think on this scale they can.
Maybe
when things are trading for 3, 4, 5 ETH at high volume, like you can move size in that.
Possibly. And I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I'm not either.
The counter to your point, and I agree. I think the middle echelon of whale was all able to get as much as they were get. The guys that have a lot of money but are still hustling and still want to have more money.
Yeah.
Those guys.
And this was their opportunity because we were talking about this on the last show. Like they can't do that with a star catchers. They can't go and buy 500 star catchers and then just dump them when they 2-3x, right? Like this is their shot. So
this needs to turn into a rich person's accessory to go to the next level. Because then you're going to get the people who didn't care to bother with the mint dynamics because it's beneath them to even do that. That's when you get those type of people to buy. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how it all goes down. I just have iffy feelings about it. And again, I don't own any, I don't hold any, and I'm not going to be buying any. At least not right now. I mean, price changes that in a hurry. Like if captains were all of a sudden to crash down to like 1.5 ETH, like yeah, I'd pick up 1 or 2 for sure.
Mantra. But I'm trying to figure. Are you shilling names in the chat right now? Do you own AI for good and AI for all?
Yeah, is it, or are you just trying to get people to send ETH to that? Like I don't know.
Frank 333, Frank the Third. That's not a bad one. There's probably a Frank the Third out there. Just hope he has money.
Right. I am not the third Frank, so that is not a
yeah,
or the 333rd Frank. So
no, but that's not, Mantra, that is a good angle because names. Well, think about it. Names
Yeah.
are so hot, but if you buy something like David II or David III, like some people still do that, and it's rarer now, I suppose. But remember when people, this is David III.
Yeah. Or like George Foreman just names all of his kids George.
Right. Can you please pass the Grey Poupon?
Yeah. Oh, don't know if he's drinking Grey Poupon. But
Grey
what else we talked about? We can go.
Do they not have Grey Poupon in Canada?
I think so.
Oh, it's mustard, right?
I don't. Oh, drink. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of
You
champagne.
didn't know a Grey Poupon.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, dead Grey Poupon. Anyway, there was a commercial.
Shut up.
I don't know if it was in Canada, but there was like rich people would sit around the table. They'd be like, "Can you pass the Grey Poupon?"
That was in was it Wayne's World when they're riding in the limo? Or no, they were getting the limo guy to roll down his window.
And then they always have an unsophisticated dinner guest over, like from the South, who's like, "Hey, can y'all pass the mustard?" And then they all clutch. They're like, "Oh, he didn't say Grey Poupon." Like that was their whole theme for like a decade. The Grey Poupon people, those advertising people nailed it.
Killing it. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to talk about with Oni Force, ON1 Force. I don't know, 0N1, however people say that. But I did talk about them on the show. And hey, there was a combination of, we were talking about the projects that were probably going to be the recipient of a pump, combined with I heard and saw people that I know are, good at this game talking about Oni Force, and it was just one of those things. It kind of made sense. If you had bought earlier, you would have gotten even bigger pump. I bought a bunch. I bought 3 at 0.66. And then lo and behold, yesterday they started going on a little bit of a tear. They got up to 1.29, sorry, 1.29 ETH each. And I did sell one. Another one that I listed did not quite sell, but I feel good about a little bit of a win there. Oni4's starting to get a little bit more active and going on this storytelling kind of meta right now, where they're doing a community-driven storytelling event and doing some more stuff. So starting to get a little bit more active and involved. Again, this was at one point an upper echelon project that just was mismanaged and really just faded into obscurity. But I mean, look at the collection, 50,000 ETH in volume now.
Okay, Kreskin. So Oni to 3 ETH, Meme Land to 0. What's your next big call?
Who, me? I didn't say Meme Land to 0. I said maybe 0.1 or 0.2. No.
I'm just kidding. I'm busting your balls.
No, I don't know. I don't know how sustained any of these runs are. It kind of just seems to be going through collection to collection and moving some. But I want to put myself in a position where I've made a little bit of profit off of selling 2 of these completely de-risked and then hold one. I know holding one is not in NFTs not a really ideal situation, because then you start to have that difficult choice of like, if we'll just take Oni, for example, if it runs up to 3 ETH, do you want to hold it for 5, or do you just take the great profit there? And then you take it and then you got to watch it run up to 10, 15 ETH. I don't know what the answer is to that. But I think some of these projects now, especially with their way they're going, are maybe a little bit ripe for swing trading. You know what I mean? Like we saw Lemons do the, from 0.015 up to 0.9 back down to 0.03. If you were able to bottom top, like you could probably start to build up a little bit of a stack. Like I'm trying to think about how I play this Oni right now. I have 2 of them left. If this, say, fell back down to 0.8, like maybe I just buy another one, regain my position, and take that 0.4 ETH profit. Like I think that there's going to be some opportunities in that. Actually, I was looking through WGMI this morning, and we'll bring that up again. Lots of green, especially on the 7-day. I don't own any of these, and I'm not sure if I'm going to, but Mechaverse was one that was like kind of on my radar for maybe something. I don't love these. I don't want to say that like they're incredible, but again, had a huge moment in NFTs, haven't really been the recipient of a pump. And, I do kind of just hear rumblings here and there that they are working on stuff, they are building. So maybe like a point 0.5 entrance rate here isn't a bad spot,
So the entire thesis here is going to rely on whether NFTs are back. Right now, you are getting previews and basically free tips. They're telling you right now which collections are going to pump. Okay. Starcatchers, Little Lemons, Pudgy Penguins, Sappy Seals, Oni, all the collections that are having these initial pumps are priming. Okay. You've heard the expression prime the pump before. Well, the pump is being primed right now, and you're getting free alpha. The collections pumping right now are the ones that are going to pump if, obviously it's a big if, but if this NFT market is actually coming back here. I will continue to reference this echo bubble theory. If things go back to half of what they were last year, let's assume NFTs can do that too. And that's what we're kind of watching for right now. If you see a collection pump and then fall 50%, 60%, and that's a collection you like, I think you buy it. I do think you try for the swing trade here. I think, first of all, NFTs are abnormally low on a long-term basis. Like if you're long-term minded, you could buy here and not even care. That's number one. Number two, I think you have a very high probability shot of both macro. And again, the curse is dead because as we've been talking, the S&P has just made newer and newer highs. Crypto remains up. And I think there's a very good chance both macro and seasonality combine to create this little echo bubble. NFTs are going to rip, and the collections you have seen rip over the last few weeks are the ones that are going to lead the charge.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it definitely goes to show that there is still some attention on these projects. There are still eyes on it. Like, I suppose that let's just say a call group or something could kind of just be moving from collection to collection and showing up on the volume charts and then dumping, but it doesn't really have that feeling. I guess like it does just feel like there are still these active projects that are out there that had attention on them during the mint. And like I said, you can go through your hidden folder and those projects that you minted that now have 30 ETH in volume traded or 100 ETH in volume traded, and you go into the Discord and like literally hasn't been a message sent for 2 months or the team's just non-existent. Like I wouldn't be hedging any bets on those projects, but if they're still active on Twitter, they're still posting, they're still talking about NFTs, still participating and doing different things and have an active, engaged community, I really just don't see why not, right? And again, like we talked about let's just say Starcatchers, okay? Again, 0.025 up to 0.6 or 0.06, 0.07. They've fallen back down to 0.05. They seem to be these projects seem to be stabilizing at kind of 2x what their really depressed floor was. I don't really think that it's an awful time to just start accumulating at those levels either, right? Like, sure, maybe they'll slowly start to seep back down lower, but if there's a project that you have your eye on and you really like and you have a good feeling about it and you have some liquidity and you don't mind that liquidity being tied up for a couple weeks, a couple months, buying 1, 2, 3 here and then just set it and forget it, or just leaving it in your wallet. I don't think it's a terrible time to do it. But the more we're even having this conversation, the more I think like, yeah, why not? Mechaverse, I'm looking at their Twitter. Like if you look at their history, they haven't really gone up that much in price. There's been a bunch of sales. I know Mechaverse is going to be one of those projects that there's probably a lot of people looking for exit liquidity at some point, which is okay. But, over the last month, it really hasn't gone up too much. We're talking maybe 25% here with some pretty steady volume. You go on their Twitter, they're building stuff. They have drivers, and I'm just doing this like in real time. I literally saw Mechaverse on WGMI before we were going live on the show, and kind of had that, let's check that out moment. But they're still doing stuff. They're still trying, and I would imagine, based on what happened with their mint and the fact that they have 50,000 ETH in volume, they probably are relatively well funded. I mean, I don't remember any FUD or crazy things going down with the founders, blowing it all on crazy trips or whatever, right? So, hey, maybe if you got some spare liquid, Mechaverse is something to look at. Again, not financial advice, and again, I don't have any of these yet, but yeah, it might be something there.
Yeah, I think NFTs, like you look at Star Catchers used to be 1.5. I think I can get to 0.5, 0.6. Lemons used to be 1.2. I think I can get to 0.3, 0.4. Oni used to be 7. I think they can get to 3. I think all of these will have, I'll say it again, an echo bubble. It's you're always taking risk, but you watch for the pump. You don't chase the pump. You wait for the few days after when it inevitably pulls back in, and maybe you build a swing position in some of these to play for the next NFT run. I think you're going to start seeing degen mints again. Mints under 0.07, 0.06, 0.05. Because again, once people are able to sell their pudgies and sell their seals, and they make a little bit and they have some ETH and they don't know what to do, it's the perfect environment for people to start doing cool degen mints again. And look, these guys are creative. They always come up with a good new meta that people attach to, people FOMO into. And I think all of that's about to come back in a mini echo of what we had in 2021 and 2022.
If you're really liquid, I mean, I maybe looking at World of Women, they're 2 ETH now, but I mean, that really had a moment. 12 ETH, 13 ETH floor for a while, right? Like that was one of the hottest projects out there, and has some pretty big names tied to it. Isn't Gaio Siri involved in that too?
Yes, he is.
So I mean, looking at the action over the last 2 months, I mean, it's really stayed flat. So, if spending, a couple of ETH on an NFT is in your kind of liquidity wheelhouse, like World of Women could be something to dive into too. So, I mean, that's just kind of what I'm looking for, is just what hasn't gotten there yet and what had a real moment. I mean, undeniably, World of Women was massive. Great that it's held a 2 ETH floor. It definitely hasn't crashed down as much as other NFT projects have. So maybe it's not the recipient of a huge upside.
Well, it was 10 ETH. I don't know. Anyone buying a 10 ETH isn't feeling good about that purchase.
I guess 12. What's 12 ETH down to 2 ETH? Like, oh, I guess it's above an 85% loss. Yeah, okay, that's big.
48,000 down to 2,400.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that too. Yeah, good point. Good point. So tons of opportunity out there. Again, I wouldn't go digging in the depths of hell for the most obscure NFTs here.
We get it. You don't think creature toads are gonna pump. I hear. All right, I hear you.
Yes, we were talking about that. I didn't want to bring them up, but I don't know.
You brought them up without bringing them up. We hear you.
That was my passive aggressive way of saying specifically creature toads. My bad. All right. So, Mantras, taking offers on those ETH. Yeah, you don't need to show that here, man.
No, oh, come on. Please show all the ENS names you want on our show. It's better than like, boobies, XXX, 1900, whatever the hell else spam.
I don't know. You don't like those? You don't like boobs?
Look, no one's going to buy them, but go ahead and chill them.
True. That's a good point. That's the thing. Well, as we were talking about, like, you're going to have to be a very specific person to buy Frank I.
Yeah, like, with that, except for the very basic names, numbers, and all that sorts of thing, you're going to need ETH to become as big as the internet for those type of names to sell. And look, domain names sell all the time. It's a big business flipping domain names and all that shit. And yeah, it could get there. But unless you own like metaverse.eth, it ain't moving for a high price right now. You gotta wait a little.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
My homie, shout out to the homie Soy, who sold that for 99 ETH 3 weeks ago. Congratulations on that sale.
Seems low.
Yes, it did, but he has so many, like literally A tier ENS. Like he was one of the first people to be like, this is gonna be huge.
And just started scooping up all of the good ones.
Yeah. And the thing is, look, these are like rares too, right? Like you could have the best names in the world, but you still need that buyer who cares to show up. So I can't blame him for. But yeah, look, they're all absurd. Like prime domain names sell for millions. Have we even seen an ENS name do that yet? Like Amazon selling for 100 ETH was like, oh, or so whatever it sold for. But like, come on, if Amazon really wanted the .eth, they could pay tens of millions. It's couch cushion money.
Oh, the most expensive ENS name was sold.
Bet you not even $1 million.
I don't know if it's in dollars or on ETH. I don't know how to navigate the site to be able to.
Yeah, they're very much in there. Are you at ENS Vision?
NFT stats. Oh, ENS Vision.
Yeah, go to ENS Vision.
I would like to know that. That's top sales, 30 days. Why can you only can do 30 days? 333 sold for 100 ETH 30 days ago, or a while ago. Huh.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone that's sold for more than 200. So that's not even $1 million.
The Google search top said 393.
Oh, Paradigm sold for 420.
This was 393.eth sold. I thought that was 393 ETH. Okay, never mind. Paradigm, yeah. Paradigm sold for 1.5 million.
So it must have been back in the.
But in that one, like, destroys all the next ones. 000 was the next highest at 320,000. Porno.eth makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember this. Stop doing fake bids. It's honestly lame, my guy. Do you remember that? Where he accidentally?
I remember,
yeah, that was a good one. OpenSea.eth, that would be a nice pickup if you were quick on the ball there. Deepak, huh? Wonder why? What was Paradigm?
That must have been for a crypto protocol or something.
Yeah.
Back when there was just slush money everywhere. I was like, fuck, 1.5 million for an ENA, whatever.
Why not?
Yeah. That money's gone. Boy, Franklin was the villain for a good 45 minutes in the captain's.
Oh, really?
Because he was doing some usual like flipping strategy or some sort of like fake bid strategy to try to get people to nibble on, I don't know, some shit like that. Oh, Franklin's wrecking the floor. Like, guys, do you understand your floor price is a product of demand? It has nothing to do with the people who are flipping. It has to do with the people who want to buy. Demand. That's what makes number go up. You can't, if everyone delists to 1,000 ETH, but no one wants to buy at 1,000 ETH, who the fuck gives a shit that everybody delisted? Everyone's like, oh, nobody list under this. Well, if no one's willing to pay that price, it doesn't matter what you list at.
If one singular person can take down the momentum of an entire project, it probably wasn't. It wasn't good. And that includes like one of the, the blockchain detectives, if they can find stuff on you. Like, but again, if you are susceptible, if a single person is a reasonable vector of attack for your project, like, you're fucked anyway. So
If
I
you
mean,
spend-
it's funny how focused people get on that. Like one person, like they're ruining everything. I'm like,
My favorite thing is when people who are in NFTs for 3 months start knocking the people who are in it for 3 weeks. Like, bro, you don't know anything about NFTs. You don't even know how this works.
now we're just gatekeeping.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
we're the year and a half ones being like these fucking people for 3 months.
that's the funny thing, and it's like they all say shit like, oh, people in NFTs just don't get it, they'll never learn. I'm like, bro, this is the same as any market I've ever encountered in my life. Like,
Well, I mean, you always see those trades of like somebody bought for 0.4 ETH and then 28 minutes later they're listing for 0.3 and everyone's like, why? Well, they're momentum traders. They find volume, they sell or they buy into the volume, hoping that it's going to go higher. And if it doesn't work out, they just cut their losses. I mean,
and remember, these people are smarter than you. This is a low liquid.
I don't necessarily think that, but like being able to cut your losses is a talent, right? Like it's just
when you're in a Discord and it's very poppin', like when you just minted and did it, like people will constantly post images of like somebody taking a loss on an NFT. Like, look, this person bought for 5 and they're selling for 4. Fucking idiots! Is that how you make money? Ha! Like you constantly see that, and you're just it's always remarkable how they think they're punking that person, but they don't realize they're punking themselves by revealing how little they understand about market dynamics.
And the other thing too is like kudos to that person that's actually doing it because they clearly have a plan. You know what I mean? Like having a plan in trading is important.
Right.
It's when you deviate from that plan that sometimes it works out for you. Sometimes, sometimes you can, fail upwards successfully, but the people who have a plan, they just say, I'm going to buy here. If it drops below this, I'm cashing out. And if it gets to this point, I'm selling, right? And they just stick to it.
Yeah. And again, in the end, all these people are doing is providing liquidity to a market. It is all about demand. Has the project or the owners compelled people to want to own these for reasons other than speculation, or have they made people think that these are going to go so high that they want to hold them to speculate for much higher price? That's all floor price comes down to. It's you can't manipulate it. You can't remove a certain segment of the market or only list at a certain price, and all of a sudden magically there's demand at 15 ETH for your NFT. Just gotta let the market work. And Captain's Mint so far, I think, would be considered a success, especially for the meme list people who are actually up 4x, this morning, or 5x. But I think that there is a reason there are such low listings, right? I think people, for whatever and I've been in this Discord for 2 days now. I've never spent a minute in there, so I don't know why they're cult members, but it's my job to sense when something is a legit cult because R2 knows my theory. I invest in cults. Cults are it, man. Look at it. This is what these communities are, right? The ones that are just never go away, like Sappy Seals. It's a cult. It's a cute cult. They're not evil. They're not trying to do anything like that. But what is the root word of culture? It's cult. And identifying which projects actually have that, I think those are your best chances for a cook. It's obvious to me Meme Land has that, so I'm optimistic from here, but I could understand how there are a few dynamics that people are questioning, whether it's like R2 said, the idea that they're letting whales get in, that like there's no any whale who wanted to get in could have gotten in before the mint, and you have this 9% royalty, which is going to dissuade those people who want to buy it at 5 and flip it at 10. All that demand, it goes away, because why are they going to buy it and be 11% down right off jump, right? Like the second you buy it, you're down 11.5%. So it's like that. There are two things that you may question, and we don't know whether if they did the opposite, it would be much different right now, but logic would say so.
Yeah. All right, we're coming up on 11 o'clock, so we are Time to wrap this up. Moon Monday just dropped in Star Wolf, so if you're a Star Wolves or a Galactic Ape holder, go check that out. Lots of good stuff. We're going to be doing Moon Monday on Twitter at 4 p.m. Eastern today, so you can join us there too. Always exciting. Always exciting. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Episode 180 is going to be in the books. Do me a favor. Do us a favor. Do Free Market and I a favor. Hit the like button on the YouTube thing. Great to see all of the familiar faces and the chatters and all of that stuff. We will be back live at 9:30 Eastern on Wednesday. That's January 11th, and we'll do it all over again. So, on that note, appreciate you, love you all. Free Market. Say it.
We're at the fucking highs, everybody. Good luck at the tables today. They're hot.